What's going on, guys? Cutlery Novice here with episode 40 of my Inexpensive Knife series. And today I'm going to be reviewing the Cold Steel Bowie Machete. Now, I know this isn't exactly a knife, but come on, it's one of those sharp toys that we all enjoy using. And I figured I'd go ahead and throw it into the series, partially because I didn't feel like coming up with a title for it. And, I mean, it's in that range. Most places I've seen this at is around 16 bucks, but I have seen it for 15, so I figured, you know what, it's close enough to the $15 range that I'll go ahead and throw it into the series. So, I've actually had this machete for the past 2 years or so, and I just never got around to doing a review on it for a couple of reasons. The first one is the camera I reviewed with for the longest time was absolute garbage, and I couldn't get a decent angle. And the other reason was I just didn't feel like there was that much interest in it, but I wanted to go ahead and pump out some reviews, and I have a lot of experience with this machete by now, putting it through tasks that by no means you should ever put a machete through. As most of us knife guys here on YouTube do, I've abused it just to see what it could do and see what it could take, including chopping very thick pieces of wood with it, splitting thick pieces of wood with it, and throwing it a few times just because I was bored and I wanted to see how strong the tip was. And it came out on top. I mean, it's in absolutely great shape for all the hell it's been through. So, yeah, it definitely impressed me for the 15 bucks that it costs. Let's go ahead and start with the sheath. Nothing super impressive, just a standard nylon sheath. Cold Steel calls it Cor-Ex or whatever. I think that's what they call the sheath material. That's what I read on the website. It's just nylon. Decent sized belt loop, but it won't fit a variety of web belts. Kind of flimsy. We do have a plastic tip at the end here, which I have no idea what it's for because on the actual edge there's no reinforcement, so you could still slice through your sheath all the same, so I have no idea what that's for. But the machete goes in relatively, it goes in easily and it holds relatively well on the sheath. When we snap the buttons up top, it does kind of slide around a little bit, but it's not too bad. I really think Cold Steel should have put the button here. That way we have a firmer lock, but hey, it's a $15 machete, and I guess I'm just, I'm nitpicking minor details that I really don't need to. The blade itself is 12 inches long, so a foot long, and made of 1055 carbon steel. Whoops, losing focus. 1055 carbon steel, and it has a baked on anti-rust coating. They call it an anti-rust matte finish. And just a warning, it will wear away as you use the blade more and more and more. But this has been through countless pieces of wood, countless logs, and you can see it hasn't worn away all that much, and it has done its job of keeping the most of the blade from rusting. However, of course, your exposed edge can indeed rust, and you can see where mine has begun to. Now, I could take care of it with some, sandpaper or steel wool or whatever, but honestly, I just don't see the need to. This is a working blade for me. It's not one of my precious babies that I keep pristine. It's something I go out and clear the brush with, chop some wood with, and throw into the tree so I can test it. That's the excuse I give. I was using the excuse that I'm testing the tip, but in all reality, I was bored and I just wanted to go out and throw the machete around. And abuse it like you shouldn't do with your blades. The 1055 steel, in my experience, is actually not all that bad. It's not the most impressive as far as edge holding is concerned. I did find that this did lose its edge. Oh, focus. There we go. It did lose its edge after a bit of use, but to be fair, I was putting it through more than you should put your blades through. I can't stress enough, and it's just like everyone in my comment section in the history of ever has said, do not use a knife or a machete to do what an axe or a hatchet is supposed to do. Now, of course, we all know that. I don't think anyone in the world would argue that you should use a knife for chopping wood, but it isn't a matter of what it should be used for. It's a matter of, can it do it in a pinch? And the answer is yes. While the blade is not extremely thick, and it does not split particularly well, I've got to be honest with you, it chops like you wouldn't believe for a machete of its weight. So I'm very impressed with its chopping power, although again the 1055 not super great at holding an edge. The upside is it's very easy to sharpen. I literally, before doing the review, realized how dull the blade was, and spent 2 minutes on a Lansky croc stick set. And obviously with something this small, I had to, kind of hold the blade from the base and sharpen it piece by piece. But I did get a nice functional edge on it. Nothing super crazy, nothing hair-popping scary, but it gets the job done. And honestly, you don't need a super fine edge on your machete anyways. We're talking about a tool that's meant to go through brush and occasionally wood. So the finer the edge you get on your machete, the more likely it is to chip. As far as the 1055 is concerned, it did roll a little bit in use. You can kind of see that on the edge right there. But again, it's something you can't straighten out if you really want to. I could just take one of those god-awful carbide sharpeners to it and just take all the nicks and dings out. And inexperience with this machete, that will work wonders. But again, it's a workman's tool, so I don't really care enough to do that. So the 1055, it's alright. It doesn't hold an edge very long, but it sharpens up pretty easily. Takes a nice edge. As far as rust resistance, it's a carbon steel. You should keep it oiled, you should keep it lubricated, and that will help prevent the rust. Otherwise, it will rust if your conditions are somewhat humid, like mine are here in Northeast Texas. We have a flat ground blade, obviously. I don't think I've seen too many hollow ground machetes, but it's flat ground all the way from the back to a nice broad relief edge. We do have a false upper swedge, which can be sharpened if you want. I did sharpen mine at one point, but after beating on it with a baton so much, I doubt it has any kind of edge on it. Let's see. Well, what do you know? It's not great, but still got something on it, which is surprising to me. Just not a very good one. There we go, you can see. I wouldn't recommend sharpening that if you are planning on batoning with it. I did so just to see if I could do it. One issue that I have with it is when you are splitting a log with it, or splitting a piece of wood with it, or even just using a baton to wedge it through a small tree, it does ding up your baton quite a bit, and it actually caused my entire baton to cut in half because of that upper swedge. So do be aware of that. The handle, well, if I'm being honest with you guys, the handle sucks. And I do mean it completely sucks. That's not just for this one, it's Cold Steel's handles in general on their machetes. They're polypropylene, and you feel every bit of shock when you swing this thing into a piece of wood. And I do mean every bit, and it will leave your hands sore. In my experiences with this machete and the Cold Steel Kukri machete, which had the exact same issue. That being said, you could wrap it in some camo form, or whatever you want to do to make it more shock absorbent, but I'll just be honest with you, the handle sucks for comfort. As far as grip, you do have a nice good grip on it. It's well rounded, but it will cause some blisters and hot spots if you don't wrap it before you go out and use it. We have a extended, I guess, flare here to keep us from sliding off, and that is nice. I guess it makes things safer for use around other people. We have a nice big lanyard hole. It will easily accommodate 550 cord, or pretty much whatever else you want to throw through there, again, to ensure that the machete doesn't go flying out of your hands and stab your friend behind you. Safety first, guys. I usually operate alone these days, so it's not really that big of an issue for me. But yeah, the handle does completely suck. It's 5 5/8 inches long, and by the way, the weight of this machete is 14.3 ounces. So it is a bit heavy, but again, considering the size of it, that's not too bad at all. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is the best tool in the world. However, if you're on a budget and you're looking for a blade to get the job done, the Cold Steel Bowie machete is indeed a decent option. And for a long time, it was discontinued. It came back, I think, around 1 or 2 years ago. It was probably closer to 2. And available on the market again, and I couldn't be happier that it is. It is a great tool for what it is. But just be advised that it is not the most amazing tool on the market. A few issues with it out of package, if I remember correctly, is this entire edge on mine was coated over. It was completely coated black, and the edge was also coated over. It was completely round, and I had to fix that myself, which you can see, it didn't take too long to do. It took about 10 minutes to get an actual nice razor sharp edge on it, but out of box, the edge was atrocious. And yes, I do mean completely freaking atrocious. One of the worst I have ever seen. If I do remember correctly, these are made in South Africa. So it isn't a Chinese-produced blade. I know a lot of people complain when they see that their knife or tool is made in China. So, nope, South Africa, if memory serves. So for anyone who has an issue with Chinese-produced blades, shouldn't take an issue with this. So yeah, that's my review of the Cold Steel Bowie Machete. Nothing super impressive, but definitely worth the $15. 10 out of 10 would buy again. As far as value, I would actually still call this a 10 out of 10 for the $15 price point. The biggest issue with it for me, aside from that god-awful Agenda box, which, come on, it's a budget machete, is that uncomfortable handle, but it's easily solved with like a piece of bicycle tubing or, again, just camo form. So yeah, that's episode 40 of my Inexpensive Knife series. I hope you guys enjoyed and find this somewhat helpful. And until next time, Cutler and I are signing out. Peace, and take care.